Well, good afternoon, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here in the Severe Weather Forecasting Center back in behind the set. You can see it back in behind me. We have an opportunity come tomorrow for a little bit of severe weather, though that said, as it sits right now, at least in my opinion, I'm not too terribly concerned about any widespread, organized severe weather outbreak, and truth be told, neither is the SPC. So let's take kind of a dive into here, and you can see what we're looking at as it stands right now. As you look across the area, here we are down here. Anywhere from a marginal to a slight to an enhanced risk, or like a 1, 2, and a 3 on a scale of 5. Most of the action will be north. I-20 runs about right there or so. Will be north of I-20 and points off to the north and east. And as you'll see coming up in the next couple minutes as I go through all this, there's a reason why we're not too terribly concerned about what's happening down here. We can kind of take a closer look at this. And again, the 1, 2, and a 3 on a scale. Again, there's I-20. Goes through Jackson and Meridian right there. That terrible red line that I just drew. But down around here, anywhere from a slight to a marginal risk area. And what they'll do at the SPC, and they haven't done it yet, is as we head into the overnight hours tonight, early tomorrow morning, I think probably around to midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, they'll issue something that will actually outline what threats they're most concerned about, be it tornadoes, hail, rain, wind, whatever. And my guess would be they'll probably tally this area here in the orange with probably a 5% tornado risk, probably a 2% everywhere that you see the yellow here, and then beyond that, nothing. And, they may not even bring that 2% tornado down. They might just bring the 2% to here and maybe have an area of 5%, look something like that. We'll see. But again, we'll kind of explain why as we move forward. So, like I always like to do, the old top-down look. Let's start at about 300 millibars up in the atmosphere. We've got winds coming out of the west across the top of us at about 30 knots or so. Notice that the real good stuff is to the north. And in fact, if you were to superimpose that enhanced risk area, that orange area there, onto here, let's take kind of a closer look here. Let me make sure I'm doing it in the right place. Okay. If you were to take that, it would look something like this. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that up for a second, and we'll kind of bounce through a bunch of these things, and you'll see kind of why they're thinking that. So down here, looking at, I said 30, excuse me, 50 knots. Misspoke, apologies. As you go down in the atmosphere, notice, though, that our winds really, at 300 millibars, if you got a good west wind, okay, sure, I'll line that up and say that's usually pretty good. You're starting, and oftentimes I talk about how when things downstairs don't line up with things upstairs in the atmosphere, this spring at least, that's why we've missed out on our opportunity for any severe weather. Upstairs, 300 millibars, up way high in the atmosphere, a good west wind, yeah, that'll help you out for severe weather. What's not going to help you out, though, is at about 700 millibars in height, 6,000 feet or so, 6 to 10,000 feet, do my math correctly, 16, 18, 15,000, anyway, 700 millibars. You've got a wind back out of the north and west, and that's not too helpful when getting severe weather. Really, you want a southwest wind at about that point, and then as you head down to 850 millibars or so, that's about 4,500 feet off the ground, we've got a nice southwest wind, and really at this point you'd want more of a south-southwest wind. So again, for us in our neck of the woods, again down here, that's where we're looking, South Mississippi. See these little barbs in here? They're all coming out of kind of the west-southwest. We'd want it more kind of the south-southwest. I'll go back to 700 millibars. Notice how they're coming from the northwest. You want to follow the from the tip here, from this back edge, going down, and they're really not moving too terribly fast either, and really you want a decent breeze aloft to really get things spinning as best you can. Okay, well, what does it look like down here at the surface? Well, at the surface, okay, so we're looking pretty good. A southwest wind. Really, I prefer a nice south wind, but we'll take a south-southwest wind as well. You can still get enough spinning with height, even with a south-southwest wind at the surface. But again, I'm leaving this area circled for a couple of different reasons. See, that's where winds are changing direction quite drastically, actually, from one side to the other. And, you know, as we kind of move back, notice that's where we've got the strongest winds as you move through about 850 millibars. And notice it is kind of west-southwest. And then it's straight out of the west, though. And notice how fast the winds are. And then you get up higher, and notice how fast the winds are still. So again, you've got a pretty decent breeze through the atmosphere. We're down here. That's one thing we're kind of missing. As you take a look at 850 millibar dew point, you can see, and I'm going to clear this out, you can see the surge of Gulf moisture just pluming to the north and east, just right from the Gulf of Mexico, right across parts of Mississippi, Tennessee, and into Kentucky. Notice this little area, a little bit drier right here. And by the way, as you're looking into the yellows here, that's when we're getting anywhere between about 10 and 15 degrees C or so. And that's a good place to be if you want severe weather in terms of dew points down here. Really, you'd like it above 15, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers at this point, right? But, again, not great. You take it, but not great in terms of producing severe weather across our neck of the woods. We'll go into the vertical velocity at 700 millibars or so, and this is where you want to see something like that right in there. That little red dot, you want to see a bunch of yellows and some reds. That's where the air wants to move vertically in the atmosphere. That's you're taking one parcel of air from somewhere in the atmosphere at 700 millibars, you're moving it up. That's how you make a cloud, right? You take that warm air, you cool, condense it, lift it up, so you get some clouds. Down here, notice we're not even pasted with any color. I mean, you know, we're hanging out around 0 vertical velocity. That's not going to make you any clouds, and certainly not going to help make any severe weather. So that's another thing that's kind of against us. So then we start taking a look at the amount of instability. So how much cold air do you have on top of warm air? Okay, down around here we're sitting in the green or so, at about 1,750 to 1,000 millibars or so, or joules per kilogram, excuse me. So we're doing all right. Not great, but doing okay. Down here in the south, you know, in the plains you want 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 Cape to get some good severe weather. Down here, anywhere between about 500 and 1,500 will usually do you pretty good. When you get up around 2,000 to 3,000, that's when you're really talking about a whole lot of instability down in the southeast. In the plains, you can get 2,000, 3,000 Cape and nothing's really going to happen. Lifted indices are anywhere between about a -3 and about a -7 or so across the area. Mainly for us, across the Pine Belt, we're looking between a -2 and a -5 or so. That is decent enough. As we take a look at the bulk shear from the surface, up to about 500 millibars or so, not too terribly high down here. And remember that area that I kind of circled before, that enhanced risk area. I wonder if it'll copy. Oh no, it doesn't copy over, too bad. But that enhanced risk area is kind of in there. That's where you've got more shear down in our neck of the woods. Really not terribly high, especially for us, where we can end up with shear anywhere between 40 and 60 and 80 knots at times. When we're talking about some good severe weather. Helicity, anywhere between about 100 and about 200 or so. As you can see, green to orange, or that green to yellow color. You get into the 300s as you get into the red. And again, if I kind of circle that same area, it's kind of up in there in places where you've got higher helicity values. And the LCLs, this is the base level of the clouds, relatively low. Now keep that in mind. So I'm going to jump ahead to our tornado environment browser, and this is anywhere between 2003 and 2011. The SPC went through and they made some calculations for all the tornadoes that we had across our area. Again, so here's, you know, Mississippi, Louisiana is here, you know, Mississippi's in here, and Alabama. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Is over there. Okay, so it takes a look at all of the tornadoes that went through the Pine Belt. And then it basically took all the math from all the stuff that was happening. And so it said, okay, for all these tornadoes, you average it out and you say, okay, your significant tornado parameter, the effective at least, is kind of sitting right in there or so at about 0.5. Your supercell parameter is sitting in here at about a 3. You know, your mixed layer CAPE is about 500. And again, mixed layer CAPE 500, you're anywhere from 300 to 1,000. If you went out in the plains, you know, you'd have the same graph, and it would be up here. It'd be anywhere between 1,500 and 3,000 or so. You know, your effective shear, again, anywhere between 35 and 50. That's like I was just saying. Now, for us, we're going to be kind of in this ballpark down here. Effective Felicity, again, we're going to be kind of in this ballpark. In fact, I could circle where we're going to be on all of these, and you know, our LCLs, they'll be probably kind of they'll be okay in there. In terms of your supercell and significant tornado parameters, in fact, we're also going to be kind of in here, which is why the SPC is probably pegged us with a marginal to slight as it looks right now. But I will say, at least in my short time here, and in all the storm chasing and all the storms that I've watched, I would argue that for us, as we move through the day tomorrow and into the overnight hours, things are not going to line up perfectly for us again to see any severe weather. By the way, to see we've got the significant severe on here, and I could recircle that same area that they did for that enhanced risk, and that's where you've got the higher values. You know, if you go over to your supercell, I believe is what this is. This might be actually the tornado parameter. Yeah, this is SIGTOR. Okay, that's the area again and again with the highest numbers. That said, for us, this is your 1 line right in here, and again your 1 line right in here for those 2 values, these guys up here. So worth looking at, but again, not overly impressed. So again, a look at what the SPC is thinking. There goes, it just refreshed. An enhanced risk north of us, we're talking marginal to slight risk as it looks right now, and I'm again not terribly or overly concerned about a widespread organized severe weather outbreak or tornado outbreak for tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a tornado or 2 or a tornado warning or 2, radar indicated, but in terms of multiple tornadoes, long track tornadoes, I don't know that we'll necessarily see that, as unfortunately for those of you who are interested in maybe catching some pictures of some really great structure, or you want to get out and storm chase, the things just aren't lining up. In fact, that line of thunderstorms will actually be moving in from the northwest rather than from the west, which is usually what we like to see in terms of severe weather. You want those storms moving from southeast, or from southwest to northeast, not from northwest to southeast. But anyway, keep your NOAA weather radios handy. I think we'll probably see a fair amount of rain, probably some wind, and maybe some decently sized hail, probably some quarter-sized hail, maybe even $half to golf ball-sized hail north of us. It might drift into some of our northern counties. But as it looks right now, in terms of, again, organized severe weather outbreaks, I really don't see it happening. But I'll continue to kind of look at things. I mean, here we are at about 3:30 or so. We'll have updated numbers for you guys at 5, 6, 6:30, and most certainly tonight at 10. And, of course, Rex will have all the details tomorrow morning.